Shit.
I want to welcome everybody to the first pay-per-view session.
I don't have go live on my screen.
Hold on one second, Chad. It's
All
just
right.
establishing the connection now.
We're
There it is. Connecting streaming. Okay, it's red now. I think we're good to go.
All right, and it'll tell you there that it's live in a second here. There you go. I'm live.
all right. Hello, everybody. My name is Chad Kassem from Acoustic Sounds, Quality Record Pressings, and Analogue Productions. I want to welcome everybody here for the first annual pay-per-view session. And
we're paying them to view us, right? Okay.
Yeah, right. And last week, two of my favorite vinyl enthusiasts and friends, whose both names are Michael Fremer from the Analog Planet and Mike Esposito from the In Groove, got into a little YouTube brawl over lacquers and a particular reissue label. And I think we're first going to stick to talking about the lacquers first. I hope by the end of this video that we're all on the same page and get working towards being vinyl allies again and not as enemies. And we're going to start, and we're going to talk a lot after the two talk about their points. Afterwards, we'll have a three-way conversation. And but at first, we're just going to start, and they're going to get to the facts. We're going to let Michael Fremer talk for the first 10 minutes or less, and then we'll let Mike Esposito respond. And we'll just try to keep it as simple as possible. So, Michael Fremer, go ahead.
I'm ready. All right. First, I want to show you this URL. This just came into me today, and I would like you to write it down. It's corfaudio.com/blog87. And what this guy did, he is a friend of the Super Sense guy, Florian Doc Caps. And what they did was they took one of these Love Supreme lacquers, and they played it over 100 times in a row and did a spectrum analysis of each play that you can look at. And after 100 plays, there was no degradation of high frequencies, no degradation of the sound at all. And you can see this. And what we don't know is what will happen in 10 years with the lacquer, but absolutely no degradation of any kind after over 100 plays. So if you got that written down, that's a good start. Now, before I start with my position on lacquers, I just want to show you one thing. We talk about lacquers, we talk about acetates, and I just want to show you the difference between the two, in case you haven't seen it. So this is actually a lacquer that's used for manufacturing records. It's larger than an acetate. And this happens to be one of Org's 45 RPM version of Gladiator, and it goes bad about 10 minutes into it, so they just gave it to me. But that's a lacquer that's used for production. This is the first lacquer I ever got from Len Horowitz. It came to me March 22nd, 1990, my birthday. It still sounds great. It still looks great. It's fine. And this is at a point in time when he was saying, we need your help through your suggestions and reviews to keep records alive. This is how bad things were at that point in time. Anyway, that's that. So I made a video of Tommy, part of Tommy, and also Buddy Holly. The Buddy Holly Lacquer was from 1995. The Tommy was from 2006. And if you listen to that lacquer, some of the people that went there to attack me that are Mike's fans, and I really love the fact that he's got absolutely loyal fans, but some of them are nuts. I mean, they're absolutely out there. They didn't listen to that lacquer, because if they had listened to this lacquer of Tommy, they would hear that it sounds fantastic all these years later, all these plays later. When I go to hi-fi shows, I take this lacquer with me. I started doing that a few years ago. And I say to them, you know what? It's in my room. It's in my house. I have it. What good does it do me to have it here? I'd rather you hear it before it turns to a pile of goo. Well, it's not going to turn to a pile of goo. That's just me being a little bit hyperbolic. But I think it's fun to share these things because they're so much fun and they sound so good. And I think this lacquer from Tommy, after all these years and all these plays, still sounds better than any vinyl pressing of Tommy that you can possibly buy. So I've got a whole stack of these lacquers here. All of them sound fine. They don't degrade. They don't turn to dust. They don't lose information. And this is something that I can tell by hearing, by listening to them. Is a lacquer for everybody? No. You got to take very good care of it, obviously. But I've never played it on a strain gauge cartridge or any kind of special well, I have a pretty special turntable, but I just play it. I take good care of it. Once in a while, a lacquer will attract fungus, and you have to get the fungus off with a cleaning fluid. But other than that, they sound fantastic. And if you don't want to buy a lacquer, don't buy a lacquer. But I don't see why this is turning into a contentious issue. The lacquers that SuperSense are doing, and SuperSense there's a guy named Florian Doc Caps, and he's in Vienna, and he's an analog guy, a pure analog guy. I've known him for years. I've been to his store, and he's got a recording studio there, analog recording studio. He's got a printing press there, old school hot type printing press. He brought back Polaroid film. He thought it would be a good idea to try to get copies of master tapes and produce lacquers so people can hear what a lacquer sounds like. I don't see a problem with that. I think it's a good thing if you want to buy it. Your lacquer is not going to go bad after 5 plays or 10 plays or 20 plays. And I think I've established that by the lacquer that I put up on YouTube. It sounds fantastic. And I've got stacks of these lacquers from 20 plus years. And they sound really, really good to this day. And if you go to that site and check out the spectrogram, you'll see the lacquers will sound good after 100 plays. That's all I have to say about lacquers. There's nothing else left to be said. So on to you, Mike.
Well, I mean, the first thing, while you were talking, I went onto the website, and the very first thing I noticed when I get 2 paragraphs in is a conflict of interest statement. The people who did this reporting own stock in SuperSense. So I don't even go any farther. I mean, it's irrelevant. They own stock in the company. Their opinion, to me, as a consumer, doesn't matter. But I mean, it's not the fact that those sound good, because that's irrelevant. In my video, I pointed out that they sound good. But I mean, I've just cited many, many, many people in the industry, including yourself. You just had said that you had it in a previous video that you did with Ken McAuliffe. You mentioned that these things are going to turn back. They're going to spring back into the nothingness that they once were. I mean, Steve Hoffman on his forum, his exact quote was, "Don't buy a lacquer. It's just silly. The surface degrades, whether it's played or not. It's a temporary playback music device, prone to any and all types of defects." Peter Letterman of Soundsmith, he did a long form interview talking about lacquers in conjunction with the strain gauge, but he said during his testing that a lacquer is playable 3, 4, 5 times, 6 or 7 with his best cartridge, like, the Hyperion, before you get a constant noise in the groove and the high frequencies get stripped out. I mean, Joe Hardley said that this was, of Music Matters and Tone Poet fame, said this is a endeavor for people with more money than sense. I just do not like the idea of telling consumers that this is a viable format. I think it makes us look poor in the industry when we sign off on stuff like this being acceptable, when at the very best, it's sketchy science. Maybe it lasts, maybe it doesn't. But when you're paying $450 to $600, depending on what number you get, because they have a sliding scale price-wise, I just think that's a poor service to the consumer. You are asking people on a whim to pay big money for something that more than likely is not going to last, from the consensus of pretty much most professionals out there. And I'm not willing to do that when there's so many great vinyl alternatives. And like I mentioned in the video, for $35, we got the acoustic sounds from a better tape. you know, how do I tell somebody in good conscience that this is, go this route, get this? And I'll say this, and I haven't really even talked about this on any of the videos. The reason I made this video to begin with is people had contacted me because, you know, repetitively, because I do a lot of reviews on my channel. For those who don't know me, I talk about sound quality. I do shootouts. I'm pretty known for that, to where I take every single version of a record of significance and I go over the sound quality of each of those. So people were calling me and asking me, emailing, wanting to know my opinion of this. And my opinion is, this is not worth your hard-earned money. Do not spend money on this. I mean, I can't reiterate that more, especially when there's so many good alternatives. I would hate for somebody to buy one of these acetates, get this thing home, and who knows? Again, we don't have a track record of this particular program. What happens in 3 or 4 years if this doesn't pan out? If it turns goo, if it turns to dust, if the lacquer starts cracking? I mean, I don't want to do that to the industry, to where people become suspect of these types of things. I just, it's bad for business. It's bad for everybody's business. It's bad for the hobby. It makes us, it gives us all a bad look. And I mean, that's where I approached this video. My video was, you know, if you got everything in the world and you're a John Coltrane fanatic, like, you know, there's Beatle guys. I've got many customers, they got to own everything Beatles. If you're that guy and you got to have this on Love Supreme, I totally get that. You should go out and buy this Super Sense lacquer. But if you are buying this thinking you are going to reach audio nirvana with this thing, you're going to be having this long-term, high-quality playback, I just don't bet on it, because the consensus is these things don't last. And the only people that are saying that these things are possibly going to go are the company that manufactures them, the company who owns stock in them, and you. And I got to say, I'm curious. I just don't know why this is something that I just seem like, Michael, this is a really bizarre horse to die on, to go and defend this company. And I just don't understand the logic of it. I mean, and who's to say on those 2 test pressings, I've got the Kevin Gray Analogue Productions 33. I bet you we put that thing on, it sounds better than that acetate did. And it's $40. I mean, there's Who test pressing Tommy, 45 RPMs floating out there. I'd imagine that sounds every bit as good as that acetate. Granted, it wasn't a mass-produced product, but my point is, after a couple of repetitive plays, you now have what that vinyl record is capable of. And after 3 or 4 more plays after that, who knows? It's a toss-up. And I'm not willing to recommend people gambling their money on a purchase. And that's all I have to say about that.
Well,
Do I get a retort, Chad? Do I get a quick retort?
Okay,
oh, I think we should both retort.
Okay.
Well,
So first of all, both of us have conflict of interest, if you want to go there. So you sell records, and I review records, and I get some for free. I buy thousands of dollars worth of records. So when people would say I get stuff for free, you got to not go there. That's a lot of baloney. I buy a lot of records, and I review a lot of records. And if I don't like a record, I'll say so. I really resent people questioning my ethics and my honesty, because it's really annoying to me. I've spent 30 years trying to revive vinyl. I've helped do it, and I really resent people saying that about me. Now, the guy in Europe comes out and says, and I hear this a lot, the guy in Europe comes out and says, here's the truth. The conflict of interest is that I am involved with this company. Fair enough. But to take 100 plays and to completely dismiss what he has to say is simply not fair. He's coming out and telling you the truth. The truth is he's involved in the company. He did 100 plays and shows you the spectrogram. You can believe it or not believe it. That's fair enough. But I think I believe it. I believe it because the lacquers that I've played, this Tommy lacquer, after all the plays and after all the years, sounds better than any vinyl version of Tommy you can get. Now, I'm not saying you have to buy this thing. I'm with Mike. Don't spend your hard-earned money if you don't want this thing. But this Tommy will sound better than any Tommy you can get on vinyl. And this guy is doing this project, and it's a cool thing. And if you want to buy it, buy it. That's all I'm saying. And that's all I've said all along. Buy it.
But Michael,
Yeah.
You're saying let's look at the spectrograph. I mean, if we were looking at spectrographs as consumers of vinyl records, we wouldn't buy vinyl records. We'd buy CDs, because when you look at a spectrograph, everything digital has going for it is a huge benefit on a spectrograph.
No,
But it doesn't.
actually, a CD has a less wide frequency response than vinyl, but that's
high definition
all
files. But we both
all that thing shows is the high frequencies do not dissipate after 100 plays. They're all there. Now, if you cannot believe the guy, if you want to not believe him, I don't know what to tell you. We should do an independent test with somebody not involved. Get one of these lacquers, play it 100 times, do a spectrograph analysis of the frequency response, and then if it's all there, would you then believe it or not?
I mean, it's going to be in the proof. I'm not willing to pay $450 to grind down a lacquer.
Fine.
I mean, I feel confident enough and I understand that. But if someone's going to ask me my opinion, and that's essentially what I'm just giving, my channel is, if you tune into the In Groove, you're going to get Mike's opinion. That's just the nature of my channel. But you know, the thing is too, and you say some of those people are, nuts. In all honesty, Mike, a lot of my guys, they're your guys. I mean, we have, if you look at the statistics, the crossover on our channels are huge. It's the same people. So, but let me say also, when you talk about conflict of interest, I don't see selling records as a conflict of interest. And I've got video. If you go back on my live streams, you go back on my recommended, look at my jazz video where I say top 10 recommended imprint jazz records. How many times I've gone out of my way to specifically tell people, I have this record, it is in my store, it sounds like crap, do not buy it.
Good for you. I do the same thing, but I get people accusing me of being a crook because I get records for free, and I really resent that.
I don't know what is in your heart personally. I won't comment on that, but I will tell you that it looks bad from the standpoint when you have $50,000 to $100,000 in free records given to you by a company. It looks bad. Forget about your intentions. I'm just telling you how it looks.
Every record reviewer gets free samples. That's a fact. Every record reviewer. And the record reviewers, let me finish. The record reviewers that people trust are the ones who give them their opinion, and they go out and buy the record, and they find out that reviewer was correct about what it sounded like. That I can tell you. I have every Mobile Fidelity. Wait a second. I have every Mobile Fidelity record. I have rows of Mobile Fidelity records. So I can tell you that this record doesn't sound very good. I wouldn't have bought this record. And I wouldn't have bought this record because the master tape of this record was lost 40 years ago. That's a fact. If you ask Roy Halley, who engineered this, how this record sounds, he'll tell you it's not so good because the tape they're using is not the original master. It's some other tape they found. It's very tired after 40 years. Mobile Fidelity will still send me records because they respect my opinion is based upon what I hear, not upon some nonsense. So if you think I'm bought off for records, there are review people who say you get taken out for a meal by a manufacturer, so you're bought off. Or people say, oh, everything you review gets a good review. That's not true. So people want to lie about me. It's very upsetting to me.
I'm not saying that is the case. I'm just saying how it looks. I, as a store, I buy millions of dollars.
How it looks to people who are stupid and don't understand what the business is. They're being stupid.
No. I don't think that's the case. When you look at politics or anything else, there's always a set of rules in place to prevent people from thinking there's impropriety there. And should be the same thing with vinyl. It's not.
Every record reviewer is not one record reviewer in the world is to be believed, because all the record reviewers and all the CD reviewers all get promo copies of things to review.
Well, that's not true, because I do reviews all the time. I do reviews all the time with records that I pay. Every ERC video record I buy records and I review them.
So please, I buy records and I review them too. And I go to shows. I go to shows and I bring the ERC and I bring Chad's. And I don't tell people what to buy. I say, here is Chad's version of this. Here's ERC's. Here's Chad's. Let's play it. What do you like? And I play it. And you know what? Some people like Chad's cut by Kevin on a solid state system better, and some people like this. And I don't even review these because they sell out immediately. So what's my conflict of interest? Just to defend him against you holding up a picture. Look, it's got a seam split. Here's Chad's Gets Gilberto. It's got a seam split. Do you want to attack Chad His record has a seam split. I mean, that whole video that you made with ERC was so unfair. You had a
Michael,
your customer send you a record that he repacked without the rice paper.
He did not repack it. He did not repack it. That record was sent to me sealed. Well, hold on a second. That's an important point because you keep mentioning it. That record was sent to me sealed. I opened that record. It was sent to me just like this Bill Evans. I opened that record. I ultrasonically cleaned it at the store. I put everything back in the box. I got home. I was so disappointed. That's what caused me to do the video. And look, at $575, it is unacceptable for any errors, any whatsoever. If you are going to place yourself at the top, if you are the Bugatti of vinyl, you need to deliver the product.
Mistake. You're saying that
no mistakes.
A human being is there are human beings, there are companies, there are manufacturers who are infallible and never make mistakes. That's ridiculous. First of all,
let me tell you something.
Every record that he sells that I've ever gotten has a rice paper inner sleeve. Every single one. Not one does not have a rice paper inner sleeve. So I don't understand how you got one that didn't. But anyway, if you have it, press it, you get another copy. It's ridiculous.
I had it.
MoFi makes defectives. Chad has defectives. Everybody presses defective records. I don't know why you're putting them on another pedestal. He makes mistakes.
Well, let me tell you.
You get a bad record, you get a replacement. That's all.
Let me tell you why. Give me a second to respond here. You don't know why I put them on the pedestal. I put them on the pedestal because they have put themselves on that pedestal. When you are asking 4 times the price of a one-step or a UHQR, you've now put yourself on that pedestal and you need to deliver the goods. They're a small volume operation. 300 records, a record with a bubble should never go out. And look, the thing is...
That's ridiculous.
Let me talk.
The record goes out with a mistake. People make mistakes. If he didn't replace the record, you'd be right. But he replaces the record. So what are you talking about?
He has to replace the records. There's no option not to replace the records. Otherwise, he'd be getting chargebacks.
Right. He's a reputable guy.
Y'all hold on a second, please.
All right.
I mean, I think y'all both had y'all's. Let me talk for a minute.
Sure.
Talk a minute.
Yeah. So, you know, you pulled up those 2 Prestige, one that we did and one that ERC did. You know, ours were $35 at the time, and they're $40 now. We had the deep groove, which they didn't have, which wasn't easy to do, which nobody does.
Right.
We had the flat edge profile, the 200-gram flat profile, flat edge, deep groove, tip-on 28-point tip-on jacket, mastered by Kevin Gray off the original master tapes. And there's a lot of praise given to ERC, which, I mean, I haven't heard them.
Well, that's an issue.
What?
It's an issue, and it's a different sound. It's an all vacuum tube system. It gets a different sound, and some people like it.
I haven't heard them. You know, I've got one off the mouth. You know, one that I'm quite happy with what Kevin did.
Sure, you should be.
And you know, if they were $100, maybe I would try one, but I don't feel like I need to try one. And it's probably just a different flavor. But, you know, when the New York Times interviewed me about the topic, they asked me what the difference between our record and their record was, and they told me their records were $495 or $500, and I said that, you know, the difference is $465.
That's very funny. But
well,
there's another difference. It sounds different, and some people prefer, you know, some people.
I sell $1,000 records all the time, and my stuff too.
That's right.
I don't have anything against. Listen, anybody can ask whatever price they want for anything they want.
Exactly.
And you know, and we get a lot of customers, you know, oh, they're greedy. They're asking. You know, we just got this collection of unplayed 1967 originals, and people were accusing us of ripping people off, but they were selling as fast as no matter what price we put in, they were selling. In fact,
you're making my point. You're making my point. All 300 of these records that he sells for $500 sell immediately because people want them. That's all there is.
And I don't have nothing.
It's ridiculous.
Can I say something?
Sure.
The thing is, though, and this is the thing, and I look at this as a store, they don't sell 300 records because people want them. They sell 200, 100 records because the people want them. I guarantee you that a huge percentage of that business is people looking to make some money on the flippers market.
You don't know that. You don't know that, and that's not fair for you to say that. You don't know that.
Look on Discogs. Look on Discogs. Look how many of these things remain sealed. I mean, the amount of these things that are out there are staggering of sealed records. And when there's only 300 of these from the jump, it's just a lot.
Whatever. If somebody
and so
wants
people put them on Discogs for more money, no one has to buy them. I mean, people are speculating on records since forever. People buy.
The thing is,
people buy multiple copies of One Steps. I know people who buy 5 copies and they go on Discogs and sell 3. You can't blame the record company for that kind of thing. You just can't. It's not fair.
I don't.
Then don't.
Michael, I'll tell you though, I blame the record company because the first Way Out West had defects. The second Way Out West had defects. The Mal Waldron I had defects. And then I bought the collection, and then the Vervel box set, which cost $3,000, sounded horrible. It was so noisy. My criticism, if anything, should be used for them to improve their product.
That kind of criticism is perfectly reasonable. I would never have a problem with you saying, I bought these records and the pressings are bad. That's a different issue.
Michael, where do they make the records? Where are those things made?
Record industry makes them. And record industry is a very good pressing plant. It's a commercial pressing plant that Sony used to own. Just like RTI has one press that does special records, and the record industry has one press that does special records that they do their best stuff on. And that's just a fact. So
the thing is, too, if I'm ERC, record industry is not the place to be making these. They're not the best. If I'm providing the most premier product in the world, I'm going to go to RTI and have it pressed on super vinyl, because that is the most premier vinyl I've ever heard.
Have you gotten any defective records from RTI? I've gotten plenty of defective records from RTI.
I've gotten.
Everybody presses defective records. This business, pressing a perfect record is almost impossible. Everybody presses.
I understand that. But we're talking about economies of scale. If you have 10,000 records you got to ship out, there's a big difference between you have 300 records you have to visually inspect and ship out every month. It's very easy for somebody to look at those records to prevent these issues. It's not that hard. We're talking about a very small quantity of records.
Fair enough. I think if they're willing to replace it at their cost, which they do, then that's fine. And I haven't had that bad. If I got that bad luck,
there's always going to be some defective records.
Yeah, that's right. It's inevitable.
Okay, and it's, but it's funny that to me, we're doing the same thing, mastering off the master tape. We're doing actually more deep groove, flat edge, flat profile.
Yep.
And they're $35 now. They're $40. And all everybody wants to talk about is these $500. It just blows me away.
Well, that's the subject at hand. That's all. Your record's not the subject at hand. That's all.
Well, it is at hand, because we're going to be repressing these prestige.
That's great. That's great. And
but it is kind of the subject at hand, because I mentioned it in the video. My comments were, we have better quality things that are available for less money. I just don't understand. It's not the money. I buy $500 records all day, every day. That's not an issue for me. Right. But I just don't understand the mentality of buying these things, because in my experience, the 4 that I've heard, there's a lot left to be desired there. They're just, the quality is not there. The sound's not there. And that Sonny Rollins, it was used. They used the defective tape. There was massive dropouts in the tape. Well,
wait a second. Wait, they used the master tape, and it had to be the same. I saw the master tape. They sent a picture of it. It's the same tape that Chad used. I don't know whether it deteriorated since Chad used it, but I was there when that was mastered, when Chad had that mastered at Bernie's. And did
during Come Gone, during Come Gone, there was massive dropouts on the ERC record that I listened to.
Michael, did they use the EQ
they knew about the EQ, which Kraft did not use on the record that you said was mastered from Analog when it was not mastered from Analog, and that one did not use
Not
the
me.
not yours. I'm talking about
And I made a mistake on that, and I corrected that in the second video. Once again, like the consumer, I fell to crafty wording. But it goes, you make mistakes too. I've seen plenty of retractions. Beach Boys, Steely Dan Asia.
Fair enough. What I made a mistake with Asia because I thought that the Cisco Asia was really good, but it wasn't that good.
I wanted to talk.
You think it's great?
Look, we talked.
I think it's fantastic.
I don't think so. I thought it was good when it first came out, but now it's that's not from a master tape, and it's
I know.
and it's not very good.
Okay, I wanted to talk about the lacquers. I mean, I think we talked enough of beat that horse dead on the
we had
ERC. I mean, if you want to buy a $500 lacquer, buy it.
Yeah, exactly.
If you want to buy a $575 record, that's up to you too.
Exactly.
Just but the thing is when you can buy the same thing for $40.
Who's offering contrasting opinion here, though? That's the thing. Most of the people in this racket now, the people buying records, didn't own a record player 2 years ago. I would say the number is significantly over 50%.
No, not most people. No, that's
I would say most. I see it every day, Mike. I got 200 people through the door, and I see the amount of people. I've got statistics even on my site.
That's anecdotal evidence. Most people, a lot of new people are into this, which is great. It's really great. But you can't say that most people have bought are in the last 2 years. But that's a whole nother discussion.
I mean, and I could do it just based off specifically the analytics coming through my website and my store POS. I will rephrase it. The people coming into my store and purchasing from me, most of them are in the last 2 years.
Right. Then that's great.
There is
great for the business.
It is, but I think somebody needs to set these people on the right path. I mean, somebody needs to explain to these people. I mean, I got 2 records here, and I'm going to go back to ERC one more time. We've got Mal Waldron here.
Right.
Here's Mal Waldron.
People buying $300 turntables. I'm not buying a $500 record. I don't even see the.
Of course not.
Right. So.
But the focus with these 2 records are. Look at the jacket.
That's Kenny Dorham.
I understand that. I don't have, Chad didn't do Mal Waldron, and I don't have the ERC Kenny Dorham. But if we look at the quality of these 2, I mean, the only thing as far as I can see we're getting is we've got Kevin Gray's cutting versus ERC's cutting, and we've got a little bit nicer of a background here. The back is significantly nicer versus the Analogue Productions. But if you look at the front of these, you couldn't pull the 2 apart from one another. I mean, they're both spectacular on the front, assuming that the Mal Waldron isn't still bent.
Right. Looks like it's flattened out. This record sounds absolutely spectacular.
Does it sound better than the Kevin Gray cut?
It's one solid state and one is tubes. That's a big difference in sound. Whether you appreciate that difference or care about that difference is a different story. But especially for the classical titles, Love Forever Changes. They did it wasn't that good. It was cut on a tube system. It was not great. But
was a fold down.
For the violin, for the people who love strings and violins and orchestral music, the all tube cutting is a very different sound from the solid state cutting, and that is a distinction you cannot just bypass.
I was significantly less critical of them when they're doing Leonard Cohen records that are $10,000 on the secondary market, and you offer a record for $450, as egregious as that $450 I might view is. I understood that. That made a lot of sense. Exactly. But when you do John Lee Hooker's Country Blues, that Kraft has a Kevin Gray cut for $25.
That's not what better. I agree with you. I agree with you on that. That was that. And Love Forever Changes they did as a mono fold down. Why would you do a mono fold down of a stereo record? Makes no sense. Okay, why
are we doing White Stripes titles now at $575? We need an all tube cut. Okay, well,
so why does that? People go crazy about $10,000 phono cartridges, but let me tell you something: a $10,000 phono cartridge is insanely great. But I don't get on people's cases, so we have to let that go.
But it looks a little bit like a cash grab when you're doing a Third Man Records all tube cut. It looks a little bit like a cash grab, and it just plays into what I'm telling you.
No one has to.
I understand that. I understand that.
Yeah, hold on a second, man. Look, they can do whatever record they want.
Exactly.
When they only make 300, they're gonna sell them. So
Yeah.
It doesn't
Please
matter.
tell me,
You
though,
know, if-
Michael, why you're so quick to defend them. I mean, why don't you defend me? I bought 4 records and they were all
defend
had
you too.
issues.
I defend you too, but I can't be defending you when you hold up a split. That's not fair. That's all I'm saying.
On a $475 record?
Yeah, come on, man. Everybody, Chad's got plenty. He's got a wall full of split records. Split records are Louis DeJoy. Blame Louis DeJoy at the post office. That's what causes you cannot. There are things you can blame the company for. Bad pressings, yes. If they're willing to replace the pressing, fine. But there's a limit to
It wasn't one. It was a cumulative thing. It was 4 records, one after another. I mean, that grates on you. I'm telling you, I hear it time and time again. I get emailed all the time.
Y'all hold on a second.
You're in very bad luck.
Hold on a second.
I have all of them for free, and I haven't heard those problems.
Is it possible, though, that they're screening the records, that they send you a little bit?
No, they're sealed like everybody else.
Will y'all calm down a bit?
I'm calm. I'm calm.
Y'all saying the same thing.
You're right.
I mean, it's reminding me of that Trump-Biden debate.
No, that's not true.
No, please.
We're both talking here.
Okay. Well, I was as frustrated as was watching it, being the watcher of it. Look, I was going to talk about lacquers. You know, I think the ERC is. I think it's enough.
Yeah, if you want to
buy it, go buy it. I could give a shit, really.
If you want the OJC, don't buy Chad's $40 record. Chad, we both know somebody who is calling you a ripoff artist for charging $35 for your records. He called you a capitalist pig. We know who he is.
Oh yeah, well that same person, they're selling the Mercury Living Presence.
Oh, now you're $45. It's crazy. That's crazy.
$45 of a digitally remastered Mercury Living Presence. So, yeah, I thought he was my friend. But anyway, whatever, man.
We're all friends. It's important to keep that in mind. We're all in the same business of promoting vinyl records, which were supposed to be dead. And then
I want to talk for a minute, man. Can I?
No.
Absolutely.
Is it all right?
Yeah,
that you got my blessing.
Okay, to me, y'all were talking about lacquers, and to me, I'm right in the middle of what both of y'all think and say. To me, we all know that. Well, most people know that lacquers can sound fantastic. They're unbelievable, man. I mean, it is unbelievable how good they can sound. And I also tip my hat off to any company that wants to push the envelope on high fidelity and make the listening experience better for us at home. You know, that is like a gangster move that this company is doing. Like, to think of, wow, how can we raise the bar? How can we get the listening experience to the consumer better? Where we want this to sound as good as it can. Let's blow them away. And a lacquer can do that. Most people that know can all agree a lacquer sounds great, but what nobody could, and everybody can agree that they degrade, but what nobody knows is how fast they degrade and how much and how long they last, because every batch of lacquers is different, you know, and no telling what kind of environment they're going to put it in, no telling what they're going to play it, what kind of rusty nail they're going to play it with, how much they're going to play it. My question is, who was the mastering engineer? I'd rather a record cut by Ryan Smith or Bernie Grumman or Kevin off the master than some unknown name I never heard of. Who is this guy, the mastering engineer?
To find out, you know, and just like Chad, you sell reel-to-reel tapes. The formulation. Okay, the formulation. Let me just.
This will be out. We're talking about Love Supreme.
Yeah. Now,
$500.
What tape formulation do you use?
We get the 900 from recording the master.
How long has it been around?
I'm not for sure, but
we don't know what that tape's going to sound like in 20 years, do we? We don't. Ampex made 456 thinking it was a great formulation, but we know what happened to that.
Yeah, but you're using an example of the worst one.
Yes, we don't know what this tape is going to do.
But I mean, we played tapes, Scotch 111 from 1957, and
bulletproof.
You know, it's
great. It's bulletproof. Yeah.
Well, I mean, listen, I don't look. Everything in life's a risk. You want to buy a lacquer, you're taking. No, that's fine, but I think a lacquer.
I'm 100% okay with that.
The guy that come up with the idea, and it's kind of cool that, you know, I'm in the business. Michael's in both. Both of y'all are in the business. We get lacquers, but a lot of consumers don't get the chance to buy a lacquer.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of cool that they get a chance to buy a lacquer. And if the mastering engineer does a good job, they're going to be in for a surprise.
Yeah.
But that thing ain't going to last forever. If they get their fingerprints on it, it's bad. If they don't handle it correctly, it's bad.
Yeah.
And so there's just a lot of pros and cons. To me, I think I'm right down the middle of what both of y'all think. And I think it's cool that a consumer can buy something that they normally can't hear. And I do think they sound fantastic and can't, but the mastering is the most important thing. But the one thing that I have with me right now that I'm going to, is I have somebody that knows a little bit more than all three of us. I was going to say you two, but all three of us put together. And Gary Sahlstrom's in here. And I don't think Gary fucking knows how long it's going to last.
What word was that? What word did you use there? What word?
Sometimes you got to emphasize shit. You know what I mean? This is Gary Sahlstrom. Gary, when did you first start plating records?
79.
He's got a conflict
79.
Plates records.
So yeah, Chad asked me to just enter into this as far as my perspective on lacquers, which is, you know, I'm not here to criticize anybody or anything else, but what we did, my experience starts with Wakefield Manufacturing in Phoenix in 79. And in the 80s, we were doing the Angel Records line of classical records for Capitol, EMI. And we were running into a lot of high-end loss, high frequency loss, and did extensive testing and found that the lacquers they were shipping to us, we weren't necessarily getting them next morning. Now, Phoenix, as everybody knows, can get really hot. So we found exposure to heat and time created a high frequency loss situation. We did a lot of testing, a lot of I'm sorry. Analyzing. I'm not used to this. So, and we did find that there was quite a significant amount of high-end loss, and that's overnight when exposed to a little bit of heat. You know,
why were you playing lacquer?
We were like 15 years old. We got Chad had found a couple, and we plated them and made test pressings, and they sounded freaking beautiful. We don't know what it sounded like originally, but it sounded beautiful. It was clean. It was acceptable. You know, what did it sound like compared to the day that it was cut? Who knows?
Who knows? Right.
I'm sure there was
a difference. Buyer beware, though, and that's the point I've been trying to make. A lot of people don't know what a lacquer is. They need to be made aware of, what a lacquer is and what could possibly happen, and that's all I tried to do.
Yeah, but I come from more of a standpoint of it's a medium to get from the tape or the file to a record, and that's really the only viewpoint that I have.
But Gary, I mean, we all know that the reason we try to get things at QRP right in the bath as soon as possible.
We don't time.
Yes.
Temperature. We don't want any pre-echo, created from the groove sagging. We get the lacquer in as quickly as possible.
And for what reason?
Spring
for high-end loss, and we don't want the lubricants that migrate to the surface can create an issue. I call a lacquer flaw. It's a little bubble of oil that bursts and can create some pops.
Can I ask you a question, Gary?
Yeah.
It's just a hypothetical. You personally, would you buy your last copy of Love Supreme as, say, just $100 lacquer or a $40 Acoustic Sounds LP? Would you buy a $100 lacquer or the $40 version? It's going to be your only copy of Love Supreme, and it's going to be your last.
Well, I mean, it's not really a very fair question, but it'd
Thank
be the
you.
vinyl.
That's not a fair
It
question.
would absolutely be the vinyl. But
Yeah, I
Okay,
would, I would
we
I
buy,
don't really want to get into the argument.
Michael, I would buy the vinyl too if that was the question. That's not the question. But
Okay,
There's
no,
a
I've
lot of
got
people-
Gary. Listen, I've got Gary in here to talk about what he knows that we don't know. I asked him, why do we kill ourselves to get it in the bath right away? Because it's degrading every moment. The temperature matters, that he puts it in the bath matters. You know, and you, so here's a question. You know, lacquers degrade, right?
Mhm. Yes. Yep.
All right. And if you play them, they degrade, right?
Well, sure. Yeah.
Right. And if you have them for a long time, they degrade, right?
Right.
Okay. Now, what happens? You say the oils ooze to the.
They migrate to the surface. I think the lacquer becomes a little bit harder surface over time. You know, yeah, it's a we don't know when it stops the transformation. I mean, I don't know if it's degrading is the right word, or the transformation of the groove, the material, the nitrocellulose acetate. It's in a state of flux as those lubricants come to the surface.
So we all know they degrade.
Yeah.
What we don't know is how much and how soon. So basically, whoever buys one, I mean, I'll buy lacquers. I mean, you know, you just got to know what you're getting. You got to know that it's
exactly.
I know you said it, Michael, and Michael knows it. They degrade. If you got the money and you want to hear, you know, a lot of things in life that if you want the best, you're paying for it, and you might not have a lot of uses. You might only be able to. It's like some expensive bottle of wine. You know, every time you play it, it gets worse, this record. But if you want, you know, audiophile heaven, and you're willing to pay for it and see what it sounds like, then buy the thing. But don't call the company crying if it degrades or if you mess it up.
If somebody wants to, I wouldn't sell this record, but if I were to sell this for $450 or $500 to somebody, I promise you, when you play this, you'll crap in your pants. And this has been played since 2006, many, many times at shows. It still sounds absolutely fantastic. And I think it's going to keep sounding fantastic. You know, it's like,
Let me say something here.
Basically, what we agree on is.
Let me say something, though, Chad. If you want to hear the pinnacle, then don't buy a lacquer that sounds like the master tape. Why don't we just save our money and buy the reel-to-reel? That just really seems to me like the real solution here. Again,
well, listen,
buy the reel-to-reel. Don't buy a lacquer that sounds like the reel-to-reel.
In about a month, you can do it. And I know Michael wanted to make the point that tape doesn't maybe last forever. Well, I'll bet I'll put my money on this.
You got to buy a good tape recorder to play that back, though. So that's another issue. You know, it's great.
But if you've got the money to be buying lacquers, you got the money to be buying a reel-to-reel deck.
I agree, but not everything's going to be on reel-to-reel.
No, let me talk about the mastering engineer. We don't even know who this guy that cut the lacquer is. So
that remains to be seen, Chad. That's a different issue. I agree.
I know, but listen, that's as important as that's just as important. I got Chad still. I got a turntable specialist in the house. We're gonna get to him. But so we got the reel-to-reel. Let me talk. We're talking about John Coltrane, all right? Now, I know my customers. I know what they like to see. They want to see the sausage, how it's made. All right. Talking about that John Coltrane, this right here is a one-off tape copy of a 30-inch per second half-inch tape. All right, 30-inch per second half-inch, and this is a one-off copy of the original that had the flaws in it. This is what cut our 45 impulse and the speaker. No, we had the original, but this tape copy is what cut the speaker's corner 33. Okay. Now you see that right there? Bob, the producer, A77, ABC Paramount. This is a tape. This is a copy of the tape box. This is a one-off 30-inch, 30 IPS. Okay, that's a one-off of the master that's been played to death that we cut. Kevin Gray cut the speaker's corner 33, and then Kevin used the master to cut our 45 of that. Now, the second time we did Love Supreme, we were told that there's a one-off tape copy that was made for the UK, was made like just a few months later by Rudy Van Gelder, sent to the UK, and they used it like once or twice. And it stayed pristine up until a few years ago. They called back for that tape, and Ryan Smith was able to A/B this tape copy and that one, and believe that this new unplayed one-off tape copy was the premier copy in the world now of Love Supreme, and that's what cut the $40 33. Okay, and the hopefully one of these days you might see a UHQR come out on that title, cut by Ryan K. Smith on 45, pressed at QRP. And y'all don't start calling the order lines. That's way down the line.
And Chad,
take a freaking number.
Chad, how many of the annoying people said to you, "But Chad, you didn't use the original master tape for your Coltrane record. It's not the original master tape. You lied."
Yeah,
I heard
I'm
those.
not lying.
I know you're not. I know you. I'm saying that people, because you used a better copy than the original master tape, people complained. I got the complaints on my website because you didn't use the original master tape. You used a copy that was better.
They don't have to buy it. They can wait.
I know.
Yeah.
Use the best one that was available.
We could have used the inferior one. I'm gonna trust Ryan Smith.
Of course, you're right. I'm not
But
arguing.
anyway, here's a tape copy. So you saw a one-off tape copy, okay, from the original. This is a one-off tape copy, EQ'd. That's a non-EQ'd one-off tape copy of the original. This is a EQ'd copy of the UK tape. It's also 30-inch per second, half-inch, freshly done on 9/11. Is 9/11 tape meet your standard, Michael?
I don't know. We'll come back in 20 years when I'm dead, and you can tell me.
Well, you're 75 now. We'll
Right, man.
So let's hope you can come back in 20 years. But
I'm working on it.
So we're going to use this. We've got 9 ATRs done by ATR Services with half-inch flux magnetic head stacks. We're going to run 8 of these at a time off of that one-off tape copy, and that's coming soon.
So Chad,
soon.
Give us a couple of weeks, then you can call and order.
So Chad, that tape that you're selling is a 3rd generation tape or 4th generation tape. Which is it?
Okay, so the UK tape was a one-off copy.
That's the 2nd generation.
And then this tape is an EQ copy,
3rd generation,
and this is made from that.
4th generation. So what'll be interesting is to compare a 4th generation reel-to-reel tape, as good as it could be, versus the record played back on a really good turntable that's a much earlier generation transfer. That would be an interesting comparison.
Well, also they made a tape copy of that of the flawed master.
Right.
But the thing is, it's not going to be the tape. The reel-to-reel will just slay it, because if it's off the record, you're losing what? How many more generations making the stamper, father, mother?
That's
So-
an
No,
issue.
he's talking
That's an
about the lacquer is not, but to me, to me, this is a better investment that will last longer. It's also fragile, and somebody can mess it up. It's also something that does wear a bit.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's anywhere as close to being in the same situation. Now, more people have turntables. Listen, we're going to sell every one of these we make, and the guy that made the lacquers is going to sell every one he makes.
Yeah, it's great.
I
You can
think it's
stream all
cool
this
for
stuff for
them. I
So-
think it's cool. It's a cool idea. I take my hats off to anybody that wants to get creative, bring the listener closer to something they've never experienced before. But I know that this tape, and I know the UHQR, because I mean, I've already heard the test pressing 45 that we've done on the Love Supreme, and you know, it's in fact, I mean, they're getting $400 for the 45 that Kevin mastered. So that's some interesting stuff, because y'all talked about different music in the so that's all of that I just said also goes for ballads. What ballads was the actual master on ballads. So there may be a UHQR one day, and there will be definitely tape. But here's a couple of things y'all talked about. Y'all talked about the heavy vinyl series, or Michael Fremer did, that was done. Then on this particular record, we found the original part from the 1959 original part, okay? And we made test pressings, 200-gram test pressings from the original part for the original album that goes for $500 a piece. That's pre-COVID. It's probably $1,000 now. So we found the part, and it's a fixed pitch cut. So we made the part, and we listened to it, and we said, wow, that would be cool to release the original part of a $500 record and say you're getting the original record on virgin vinyl pressed at QRP. But then when the master tape still exists. So all those, that guy that wrote the thing about all those tapes burning, some of the tapes are gone, but a lot of them still exist.
Yep.
This one still exists, thank God. And so I'm like, well, wow, that would be cool to release that original record and show us what original record would be on 200-gram virgin vinyl. But it was a fixed pitch cut. And then when Kevin got the tape, and this tape and Kevin's cut blew the original away. So we're like, that makes no sense. Why would we want to release the original when this smokes it? So this is our copy. And we got Graham Nash came to Salina, and that's how he made the name up for the Hollies. And we played it for him. And anyway, he wrote some liner in it. This is going back on the press. So here's the original. And then here is ours. And then here is the heavy vinyl. Now, here's some news, because listen, I know everybody wanted to hear about lacquers and ERC, but they want to see what the hell's coming out. They want to get some. So these Prestige that are $40 with the 28 point tip on, glossy. We're going to be repressing these soon.
The whole series? We talking all stereo?
What's that?
The whole series, all stereo, all mono? 50 titles?
Yep. So these are 2 titles that ERC did. Oh, here's an original saxophone Colossus. Here's our saxophone. I think ERC did this one.
Yep.
That saxophone Colossus. Had a seam split. Did that come from ERC?
No, I don't have any ERCs. I'm quite happy with
Chad,
what I got.
I need to ask you a question. Are you using a hot stamper to press your records? Are your records hot stampers?
You mean hot pokers?
Hot stampers, Chad. It's very important.
Are they white? Are they white hot?
Yeah, I've got a hot stamper of a Kinks album, and I'll show you what burnt vinyl looks like. That's what a hot stamper produces.
Here's this is gonna tape, possibly UHQR. Don't call us for a couple of years on it. And so anyway, I just thought that since y'all were talking about this, the ERC was talking about some of the titles that we're going to be repressing, and now that Analogue Productions and Acoustic Sounds is back working together with Concord, who knows? You might see some contemporaries, or you might see some represses of the contemporaries, and we're definitely going to see some represses of the Prestige. So we're going to be working again. You may see some UHQRs. I mean, 2022 is going to be an unbelievable year. All I can say is get ready, because there's going to be some shit coming out that's going to blow people's minds, and it's going to be the best year. And we're getting back together with Concord and Contemporary and the Prestige, and what we're doing with the Universal Verve series. And but anyway, I asked Stelly to come sit in with us, because Stelly is a turntable guy, and he's got a few opinions, and I don't know. He didn't know about this little controversy that was going on, but he did know about that on, how you say it, the
on-sal zero dust.
The on-sal. Fremer's got
stylus gel.
Fremer, you started to, you poke.
I didn't start that. I reported what somebody else discovered, so I didn't start.
No, I know, but Stelly's in the audio side, so he didn't know about the little Lacquer ERC thing. But boy, he was on the stylus thing. But I don't know. I brought Stelly.
Okay,
I'll let Stelly watch.
Well,
Yeah,
we were talking about it over lunch.
Stelly's seen a lot of turntables and a lot of cartridges. And have you had that experience with that Unzao thing, or no?
I've not seen deposits with it. I mean, there's been a couple of companies who've made like stylish treatments that I've noticed. I've actually cleaned off of styli that have been baked on there.
Yeah.
Where cartridges were sent in for a retip, and I always inspect pickups, and I could see that it was just garbage that was caked on.
Did
So
you
there's
see
a
the
way to
pictures?
support the stylus where you can clean it under a microscope, and I'd send it right back to the customer and say, whatever you were doing, don't do that anymore.
Did you see the pictures that J.R. Boyclair posted on?
I did see his pictures, and he's got better magnification than I have access to, but I've always had wonderful luck with the gels. I mean, I aggressively brushed styli, and the gel removes hair and different things at the base of the stylus where it meets the cantilever, and it almost looks like it polishes things. So that's part of my regimen.
Yeah.
I mash it down there. I mean, whatever the stylus tracks at is what sees the gel. And just a quick dip does an amazing job.
I think people have to be very careful, though. They've got to be careful using that based upon what those pictures show. And, you can't see that stuff with a naked eye. So
No, but if it's doing anything wrong, you will hear it. And
yeah,
I had a call into Lewis Dario at Ortofon because it was referenced that one of the Ortofon didn't recommend it. I was led to believe in some of the readings, and there was also a customer who on the facets on the face had some deposits that was causing mistracking. And so I wanted to get some clarification on that. But, you know, if analog sounds good, it is good. And if, you know, the opposite is also true. But I've always had really good luck with those things and have recommended them.
So we got some comments. Somebody said, let's get back to the fight.
Okay.
No.
Hey, Chad, I got a very important question coming here from my audience. They want to know where my UHQRs are.
They're on their way, and no bullshit.
Good.
No bullshit.
Good.
There
you guys got it. Don't email me. They're on the way.
Yeah, the check's in the mail. I promise not to. No. So let me just tell you on the kind of blue, we pressed the 25. We finished pressing them. We're sending all the wholesale orders out as we speak. We're going to have about 500 left, and that's it. So it's virtually out of print. You know what I mean? So they had a lot of people, you know, people that, you know, of course, they wait till the last minute. And then I have a lot of friends out there. They're going to call me a year from now. For all my friends that's going to call me a year from now and ask me, hey, Chad, old buddy, old pal, you remember me? You got one of them UHQRs. So right now is the time. I mean, did you sell all of yours, Mike?
I did.
So whatever Mike got was, which is a shitload, is a small amount more than a buttload, which is
don't ask Chad how he measures that because it's really.
I got a couple of shitloads.
Right. So I'm gonna, Stelly, what do you like as far as the talk about tape and lacquer and ERC and?
I mean, I keep going back to that one night when we listened to nothing but lacquers at your house.
Yeah.
I mean, it's enjoyable to listen to a lacquer, but and the material, it sounds soft. It is soft and it sounds that way.
I mean, and
it feels like you're wearing it out, you know.
They really have the presence. A lacquer has presence, and since we own our own pressing plant, a lot of times Bernie, our mastering engineer, goes, "Hey Chad, we're going to send you a lacquer of what we're mastering." Of course, I can't tell you what that is right now, but I'm like, "No, man, send me the 14. We're going to send you an acetate reference on what we're cutting now for you to hear to see if we're making the right moves." And I'm like, "No, Bernie, send it on the 14-inch lacquer because we own our own pressing plant.
We can do the whole thing.
We can do the whole thing, and if you came out good,
you wouldn't know it."
Well, if it came out good, we already got the part made, and we already saved the money. But for the most part, I want to hear the final product. Because listening to a lacquer, they sound so good. It fools you. You know, you're going to like it. You're just going to go, wow. So there's just like in the world, everything's a risk. And everything is pros and cons.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's a pro and con on the lacquer thing. It's kind of all it is. I agree with a lot of things Mike said. Well, they both Mikes.
Both of you say.
And I agree with a lot of things y'all both say. We agree on more things than we disagree.
That's right.
It's just, and the buyer beware. Mike at Ingrooves is saying buyer beware, and so am I. And Fremer's saying, listen, you can listen to these things and they sound good, and they do, depending on the mastering engineer and the equipment. But let's just assume
it's only as good as the weakest link.
You know what else? You know what else, Chad? Kevin cut the Buddy Holly record that I was involved with in 1995, and he cut it again for you. And yours sounds so much better because his cutting system improved by that much. And Kevin's cutting system is much better now than it was when he had his plant his cutting system at RTI, because a cutting system is just a stereo in reverse, and you hear a cutting system. So
yeah, you're right. It was amazing how much better.
Kevin's in control of all of his variables now.
that's right.
Which he may not have been at that time.
But
Right.
the Buddy Holly that he just cut from the original tape that was supposed to have been burned, and we had pictures. Even some of the tapes had some Waylon Jennings doing Jolie Blanc on it, which is a classic song. We had pictures of it. I mean, and so I'm like, wow, it'd be cool to get this original. And a lot of people thought, wow, it'd be cool to offer both the original cut and that. And I'm like, why waste the vinyl if one is so far superior? Then it's not worth doing, man. It's not worth doing. But I have some test pressings. It's an amazing story that we're able to find those parts. And that goes to show you too that old parts can still be good and last. So I think I'm right down the middle between the two mics. I think that, and I exaggerate. I'm guilty. Everybody at Acoustic Sounds know they tease me. I exaggerate a little bit sometimes because I get excited about stuff. But I think both mics exaggerated a bit on both sides. And I know Mike was just kind of, when it said it turns to dust, although I'm sure in a rare case it can. And the other mic, Fremer, is a little bit pro on it lasting. But I mean, you can get your fingerprint on it. It's harder to clean. But buyer beware. Everything's a risk. There's gonna be a lacquer is cool. It's kind of cool that a consumer can get to hear a lacquer because we all have, and I think it's cool of the company trying to come up with something nobody's done. It's a very cool idea. It's a crazy idea. It's a lunatic fringe. I mean, it is. They have got a job to do like nothing else. I mean, it's unbelievable how much work they're going to have to do.
And you know what, Chad? If the cutting engineer doesn't do a good job, and if the lacquers don't sound good, I'm going to say that. I'm not going to not say that because I've been bought off. That's the part of this whole thing that really pisses me off. That people think I'm bought off or I don't tell the truth. I
don't think we have agendas.
No,
you can fix that, Mike. Just auction or just do a giveaway on your website with all those ERCs.
No, thanks. But if anybody believes I can be bought, there are people that say, the manufacturers take you out for a meal. Yes, if you think I can be bought off for a record or a meal, no, sorry.
Listen, man, I agree that all four of us got into this because it's our hobby. Okay, I know that. I know Stelly. I know Michael Fremer. I'm just starting to meet Mike Esposito. I know that there's no way we would be so deep into this.
Chad, why don't you talk about what it was like when we first got started with this in the 1990s and what people said about us and they laughed at us and they mocked us for.
Well, move on down the hall, they would tell you.
Yeah, I would say that Michael Fremer stood up on CBS Sunday, CBS Today or whatever those shows are with Brian Gumbel. And a lot of people tried to embarrass you. I would have never wanted to stand in front of a camera and debate these engineers, like real engineers, about digital and analog. And you stood toe to toe. You haven't waned. You've been right there. We've been there together. We know who was there at the beginning, and we know who ran. We know all the Johnny-come-latelys that are coming back. Oh, I was there the whole time.
Yeah, right.
The first son of a gun I saw running.
Jack, can I tell you one last anecdote? So, Chad, I was on a CBS radio show with a very famous digital engineer, and I got the best of this digital engineer. And at the end, he said, this is just when the Soviet Union was about to collapse. And this guy says, the Russians use vacuum tubes in their airplanes. You know that? And I said, I know, and that's why their planes sound so much better than ours.
Well, I really appreciate the look. We'll just try to wrap this up, man. Is we all agree, we're all trying to educate the consumer. We're trying to get them closer to what the master tape sounds like. We're trying to educate the consumer. We're trying to show them what goes in the sausage. We're trying to be transparent. This is how things are made. This is why it's important. This is why we use the master. This is why we spend everything we have trying to upgrade things. And we're all trying to get our favorite records. We're trying to collect our favorite records, and we want the best sounding version that there ever was of our favorite record. And I think that's why we all do it and why most of our customers do it.
Very true.
I think listen, I sell records for a living, and Michael Esposito sells records for a living. We got so many good records, we don't need to recommend bad records.
That's
you know,
right.
I just don't talk about the shit I don't like. I mean, I'll twist your arm when I'll twist your arm when it's something I believe in. I'm the best salesman in the world when it comes to something I believe in. I'm the worst in the world when it's something I hate. So, you know, there's so many good things I can recommend. I can't, especially now, there's just so much great stuff. Did we ever think
Never
this was going to happen?
No. I talked to Joe Harley about that. All the time.
It's only getting better. So I think that I know, you know, Michael Fremer, I feel Michael Fremer is ethical as he can be, or as I feel he's ethical. I've been dealing with him a long time. I haven't seen anything, and that makes me question. I sell records for a living. You know, when I go to buy something, I want a salesman, because I know if I go to buy a car, I don't go, oh, that guy's just trying to sell me something. He knows way more than I do about it. When I want a turntable, I ask Stelly, just tell me what to buy. I don't care. Just tell me what to buy. I don't have to stick my head up a cow's butt to see where butter comes from.
Is that where butter comes from, Chad? I did not know that.
I want it. I know what it tastes like, and if it tastes good, I'm the taster. I'm the last ear before it hits the consumer. You know, I'm the consumer, and I think we all are. I want it.
Yeah.
Just like the mastering engineer, he's got the last chance to improve, make this sound the way he thinks a consumer wants to hear it. And then I get to listen to that mastering engineer and say, wow, it's a little bit bright, you know, we just, I think we're all in the same team. I think y'all got a little out of hand there for a moment. Well, the one thing I'll say too is I'm friends with both of y'all, and I talk to both of y'all all the time. And I just happened to be talking to y'all when all this shit went down, which was like, this is just crazy, right? And everybody was freaking out. And I was like talking to both of y'all, and I got the feeling from both of y'all that y'all wanted to bury the hatchet. And I was talking to both of y'all, and without really saying it, I could feel that both of y'all wanted to bury the hatchet. And that's when I kind of mentioned to both of y'all, you know, man, maybe we ought to have a video where we can talk about all this and close it at the end with what we all agree upon. And both of y'all did not hesitate. Yeah. Y'all both wanted it, and y'all both said it quickly.
Yeah.
Hey, let's do that.
There is no hatchet here, Chad, and there should not be, and that was never my case.
Yeah.
Well,
You know,
I mean,
we had two disagreements, and that's really it should have never been thought of as anything more than that. It's okay that two people disagree on this, and you're right. I would say we agree on probably 98% of everything, and I do advocate for vinyl, and he does the same thing. So you're right. I did this because I don't want there to be any animosity. I don't want to be walking down the halls of Exponent and it to be weird. That's never was my intention. I just want to be able to disagree. And that should be 100% okay. I know it doesn't happen much in society anymore, but it should. We should be allowed to disagree and then go on about our business.
Yep. Amen. And most of what we disagree on is about degree of disagreement. That's all. You know, I think.
Yeah.
You know, when those Super Sense lacquers come out and I get one, and if it sounds lousy, I'll say it. I don't care. And I know the guy. It doesn't matter that I know the guy. I review hi-fi equipment. That's nothing that bothered me. Someone said, "Oh, Fremer only reviews things positively." All these audio reviewers. I review a lot of things negatively. And after I give a product a negative review, I walk into the room where that manufacturer is at a hi-fi show, and I go say hello to him and see what he says. I reviewed an audio physics speaker once. I owned that speaker for a long time, and I walked into the guy's room, and after I gave it a bad review, and I said, "How's the show going for you?" And he said, "Till you showed up, fine." But you know, it's fine. I don't mind being yelled at by people, but if I don't like a product, I'll say so. I really don't like people making broad generalizations about audio reviewers being bought off because of advertising or whatever. Most of the audio reviewers I know are honest people trying to help people buy equipment and get good equipment and know what things sound like. And that's all there is to it. And it's the same with records. The way reviewers do review records. If you review a record because of some political thing or because you were given a record and it's not good, your credibility is going to be gone pretty quickly. You know, Mike's working capital is his record store and his records. My working capital is my credibility. That's all I've got. And if I blow that, I got nothing. The ERCs, I will never sell those records. Never, ever, ever. Anybody that gives me a promo record stays on my shelf until the company goes out of business. Then I'll sell it. But until then, I will never sell a promo record from any label. I just want people to understand that.
You know, the thing is there was something that all reviewers get free records, man. You know what I'm saying? It's just the way it is. And, you know, it's up to the company whether they want to send a reviewer and take a chance and spend the money on a chance that he might review it. And, you know, I've known that since the beginning. And that's I mean, Michael needs the records to be able to talk about them, but since he loves records, it's a perk of his job. But, you know, it's just like the perk of my job. I mean, I never thought I'd be emailing back and forth with David Mason well, I was going to mention a few, but I can't mention them yet because I can't talk about but, you know, like I'm buddies with, you know, hanging out with Bernie Grundman or Doug Sachs all day or you know what I mean? Or Kevin Gray, you know, listening to Bob Marley Masters, you know what I mean? Or
working with artists to review their test pressings with them.
Yeah,
that happens a lot too.
Yeah, and so I know that we're the luckiest 4 people there is, man. It's the way I see it. And then our customers are so cool, you know, most of them.
Hey, you know,
no, these are definitely first world problems right here to be able to argue about sound quality on a lacquer versus a reel. And that's definitely not lost to me. I mean, this is an awesome job, and to be able to do this is fantastic.
Yeah.
Right. To be able to hear be at the mastering session of a Marley album or a John Coltrane album, you know what I mean? Or a contemporary record and hear the master and then work with the guy that's been doing it and then work with the plating guy and then get the test pressing. I mean, it's fun to wake up to that. But, you know, on the other hand, it's still a job. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of frustration. It's not all easy. But anyway, I think we ought to probably wrap it up. I mean.
Okay, we should each have a final statement. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm looking at some of these comments. One guy says, Get a free LP is one thing. Getting 500 free LPs, come on, that's not the same thing. You're right. Well, you do this for 30 years, and you know what happens? You end up with thousands of free LPs. I don't know what you're talking about. No, this is being involved in this business. Chad and I got into this when it didn't look like vinyl was going to be around. It didn't. It was like a really bad bet that this was going to come back. And we've both been able to do pretty well because it's come back and because Chad makes great records, and he made great records from the beginning with master tapes, working with guys like Doug Sachs and Bernie, and it's worked out well for everybody. And everybody I know in this is an honest broker trying to do the best thing to help the industry and to help consumers. And I get those, I get people coming up to me at hi-fi shows. A guy comes up to me, I'm talking to a surgeon, and this guy comes up to me, puts his hand on my shoulder and says, "You've changed my life." And the surgeon says to me, "I save people's lives." I never hear that. So I know I'm doing the right thing. I know how people react to Chad, and I'm sure when people come into your store, Mike, they're happy. I wish I had a store like yours near me, but I don't. And maybe someday I will. And so we have disagreements, but they're not major disagreements. They're more disagreements on perspective and perhaps intensity, but that's about all. So that's all I have.
I think we look at things somewhat slightly different. I'm not saying one is better than the other. I have a store, I sell records, but I look at things and I review things, but I do it in the eyes, to me, I do it in the eyes of the consumer. I buy everything, I look at everything, and I share online with people my feelings, and I do it very spontaneous. I don't write anything down. I don't think about anything ahead of time. I do live reactions, and I do it spontaneously, and I think like a consumer. When something is great and I'm surprised, I mean, it shows through on the camera, and when I'm disappointed, we end up with the ERC video. But I do things, I try to look out for the consumer because I know that's where my bread is buttered. It's the people that are buying those records, and I really, truly want them to be happy. I would never sacrifice, I would never sacrifice 10 future sales to make a sale on anything that was bad in the short term, because I'm young and mentally I'm thinking to myself, I need this to last for the long haul. So I try to approach everything like I'm looking out for you. And maybe a lot of people don't agree with what I have to say, but that is my mentality. That's what I'm doing when I do these videos. A lot of people don't know my channel, but I started the channel long before I even had the online store. And that came with the shootouts. People would come into the store all the time and they'd say, "You have 100 copies of Sgt. Pepper here. What's the difference?" And I thought to myself, rather than explaining to people every single day, there's got to be a better way. And that's how I started the shootout videos to begin with, where I could tell people, here, I talk about it for 20 minutes, go online. So I just think of it as, I'm trying to help the consumer out. I'm sure you're doing the same thing. We just do it, you're doing it as a reviewer / critic, and I'm doing it as the consumer. Same thing. I think we get to the same place, though.
Yep.
Stella, you want to say anything?
Yeah, I think everything we're talking about is very valid. And what plays in the back of my mind is I remember going to an audio show not too long ago. And I mean, lacquers can sound fantastic, but they can be delicate. And there was a turntable manufacturer who was demoing a very high-end table. And the guy who was running the room had access to some very nice lacquers that belonged to a record company who was a friend of his. And he was playing lacquers on this turntable when the manufacturer approached me and said, was trying to show me this turntable. And while the record Lacquer was playing, he starts banging on it as it's playing to show me how sturdy this table is, not only in relation to speed, but the absence of noise passing through it. And the guy who was running the demo was just freaking out because his lacquer was pretty much gone at that point. But, they can sound incredible, but they are delicate. And I think that's come through today.
So anyway, I thought about this, like I said, when I talked to both of y'all, I'm like, I got y'all the impression y'all both wanted to come to a close on this. And then I'm like, well, shoot, man, I guess this is what we're going to need to do. Then I'm like, how is this going to turn out, man? I mean, I hope. So I guess if you ask me, did it come out what you thought, or was it worse or better? Or I would have to say probably right down the middle. Like it got a little tense there for a moment, man. I had to try to, but I think we're all passionate. I know we're all passionate, and passion is everything. It really is everything. Passion and is everything. And
sometimes we got to towel off.
Right. That's what they say. They tell me at Acoustic Salad, towel off, Kassem.
Ace.
So the passion came through, no question about it, on all of our parts.
And the consumer benefits.
And I think that, but for the most part, it's pretty much, I guess, exactly what I expected. It wasn't any worse, but it was as good as, I think, all in all, whatever happened, and it's a close. If they want to buy an ERC, go for it if they can get it. If they want to buy the lacquer, go for it. If you want to buy the tape, you're going to be able to do that. If you want to wait for the UHQR, if you want to do that. If you got $35, you can buy the 33, and I promise you, they sound awesome. And I mean, what do y'all think, Mike?
Which one?
Well, both of y'all.
You're a $35
train.
That whole Verve series is phenomenal, and especially because those tapes were supposed to have been burned in the fire, and they weren't. Well,
every time we do a title, they do, they either find the tape or they don't. And the ones that, most of them we have, and the few that haven't, we just don't do them because there's so many good ones and they have so many tapes. Why do a tape copy? Now, there might have been one that there was all they could find was a one-off analog tape copy that was in great shape.
That's fine. Most records from the day, the original vinyl day, were not cut from the master tape. There was a cutting master made from the tape. So,
so basically, but I oversee it and I okay it and I do it, because I know my name's going to be on it. So, Esposito, what do you think of the—
I mean, it's you touched on this earlier. It's an absolute fantastic time to be into vinyl. I remember 10 years ago, you would wait months before something interesting came out. And now we're getting things between the Acoustic Sound Series, UHQRs, mobile fidelity titles, one steps, Craft's doing one steps. You're doing reel to reel Blue Note classics. I might have said that twice. It's unbelievable. It is a fantastic time. And I'm so glad that the industry is starting to put focus on higher quality stuff. It's not just the reissue, it's not just MoFi, it's not just you, it's the labels themselves are starting to put out quality stuff, and that's fantastic. I dig the series. I'm looking forward to, hopefully we can get some more squirrely titles. I know obviously you got to start with the stuff, the Love Supremes, the ballads, but I love the kind of like what Blue Note's doing. I hope to see the day when we get the squirrely stuff, the Alice Coltrane, and the more bizarre stuff. But
well, you can start your own reissue label and do some of those subpar tapes because
there's got to be tons of great stuff. There's got to be tons of great stuff, and you're going to get to it. I have a feeling you're going to get to it.
No, I've listened to some of that Alice Coltrane, and I get emails all the time for that stuff, man. I mean, I've listened to some of it, and it was done in their living room, and I mean, let somebody else do that.
And Michelle did some of that stuff. It was fantastic. Some of that Impulse, Alice Coltrane stuff is good. Yeah, it's a little squirrely. It's a little out there.
I'm sure a lot of people love it, and they can do it. But I gotta, I kind of stick to what I know and what I think my guys want. But
you'll get deeper as the titles go on. You'll get deeper, I think, and that's a great thing.
But anyway, look, I think we've done enough. We talked enough. Everybody got to say what they needed to say. I think there was some educational stuff. I think we, you know, we agreed on more than we disagreed. And somebody mentions, Chad, you don't set up a fight and then get mad when things get intense. I didn't know that I set up a fight.
I don't think it got that intense. I've been in a lot more intense fights than this.
I was kind of smiling on the inside. Maybe it's my Italian in me, and I just come off that way. But to me, I never thought it got that intense. Read the comments.
I'm seeing all these comments, and I think that a lot of them are very interesting. And
yeah, and some of them are not interesting.
Right.
Sam Records, Snap, Crackle, and Pop. Sam Records are fantastic, and I know you sell them too, Mike. Right? You sell Sam Records.
Fred,
listen, I get these emails where somebody says they had 4 verves that our records are noisy. They had 4 copies of the same record, and I'm thinking, man, dude, you need to get in another hobby. Please, I hope you're not buying them from us, because some people just. I'm sorry, man. I got a lot of great customers, but about 1 out of 1,000, you just can't please.
That's right.
You just can't please them.
Just remember,
Chad, you could have the Beatles come back from the dead, play in their living room, and they would say, "Wow, Paul's bass was out of tune." But anyway.
I heard that from the guy that we were talking about. He said he finally, I ripped a Beatle record for him, and he said, I finally got to hear the problem with Get Back. Paul's bass is out of tune. Thanks a lot. And that ruined that for you. Is that really what ruined that for you?
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, Lightning Hopkins and John Lee Hooker, they had bad timing, but man, I mean, they're my favorite artists. It's like, does it move you? It's what it's all about. But
that's it. That should be the final statement. Does it move you? That's what it's all about. Right.
But hey, listen, you guys, look, let's hope we can do this till the end of the line. Been doing it for a while, and very excited and happy with everything.
We're definitely at the beginning of where this is going.
Yeah, I never thought it would get like this, but when people said, "Oh yeah, Taylor Swift fans are buying those records so they can hang them on the wall," and then she comes out with that Red album at 45 RPM and doesn't tell anybody, and you get these comments, "It's a man singing it. What happened?" Because they don't know they don't have 45. So
yeah, that was hilarious.
We're playing.
But I'll mention one thing. There's a lot of people that make comments that they don't like people that hang their records on the wall, or they don't like flippers, or they don't like speculators, or they don't like people that just collect records, or they don't like people that buy 5 of the same copy. Man, whoever wants to buy a record for whatever reason they want to buy it, it's none of my business. If they just want to collect them and hang them on the wall, it's art. Let them do it. I don't care. And there's speculators in every business, whether it's real estate, whether it's anything, the speculators.
Wine. That's right.
Yeah. And I buy 2 and 3 of my favorite records, man. I'm sorry. You can call me a collector and I'm a hoarder. Okay, I'm guilty. I might put one on my wall. My little girl's buying records. She bought that Olivia Rodrigo, and we listened to the whole thing. It's the first thing we've ever done like that together. The whole record we listened to, man. And I mean, it was emotional, and we brought her to Sterling Sound in Nashville, and she played that record the whole trip in Tennessee. And they came to pick me up, and I said, Ryan, did you happen to cut that Olivia Rodrigo record? He goes, actually I did. I says, oh man, dude, okay, this is cool. I said, well, when Jasmine and my daughter comes in, will you play her the master? No problem. So she comes in, because, I mean, of course, I'm an old fuddy-duddy, you know what I mean? And, about as cool as a freaking, so she comes in. I said, hey, Ryan, Jasmine's been playing these songs, this Olivia Rodrigo. Ryan, did you master that? Yeah, I sure did. Would you play her the master? So we put her sitting in the Cat Daddy seat, the mastering engineer seat. I forget if he has ATCs or what, I mean, we just cranked it. I mean, she just, And she's like, Dad, I heard things I never heard in that record before. She's, all of a sudden, I mean, she still thinks I'm lower than dirt, but at least I'm at the dirt level, for at least a day, So whether they want to hang it on the wall, whether they want to play it on their Crosley or Crosby or whatever they call. I mean, I know it sucks, but and they want to collect it, or they want to invest. If they want to buy 2 copies, man, I don't care. And if they're flippers, I'm happy sometimes when I miss out on the record that a flipper, the new word flipper, has one. I can buy it because it's like, buying a movie before it comes out. It's a convenience. They had it and I want it, and I don't feel like waiting for it. And that's what I have to say about that. I don't know how y'all feel about the flippers and the people that collect records to put on their wall or whatever. It's their business. It's their money.
It wasn't that long ago that people were getting rid of all their records for $1 a piece or throwing them away. You'd find boxes of records by the garbage dump. It wasn't that long ago. So the fact that now records are being considered, something that you can sell for more money than you paid for them, and it's an investment. If you're too young to remember that, that's what happened. It was all my records for $1 a piece or for nothing. Just take them. And what's happened now is unbelievable because of the difference.
That's how I got into it. I couldn't, growing up in the 90s, I couldn't afford CDs. And I had my pick of the litter vinyl-wise. You go into flea markets, 50 cents, $1. So that was before the internet, that's how I got music, and it never left.
Well, I'm going to end with this. Some people are saying, that they get frustrated because the flippers buy it, and then it's not available. But man, when these records come out, you have to get on our email list, or maybe Mike has an email list, or watch Michael Fremer's. You got to buy them when they come out, because like with Love Supreme, we pressed maybe 10,000. They went like that. Okay. Then it took 13 months to get it back on the press. So, buyer beware. Get it when it comes out. That's the last word on this. Thanks to both of y'all. I hope y'all are pleased with. I'm not a moderator like Mr. Fremer is, but I did what I could. So hopefully everybody enjoyed it. Thank y'all very much.
You did a good job.
All right, we all did too, and I hope that I hope somebody learned something.
Thanks to Gary too.
Yeah, and Gary. I mean, hey, we just happen to have a plating engineer that knows about lacquers, and a turntable specialist, and I mean, we had some qualified people that had opinions, and we made a lot of different points.
Yep.
Now it's up to the consumer to do what they want with their money.
Absolutely.
Keep carrying the
All right, until next time. We'll see you.
Peace, guys. Thank y'all. Thanks for doing it. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.